Have you ever struggled so deeply with overthinking and overanalyzing to the point where you literally feel stuck? Like you're so overwhelmed by the number and the weight of the thoughts and thusly the constricting feelings and emotions in your body to the point where it's like, I can't do anything. If you said yes, I can relate, and I highly recommend that you sincerely take to heart and apply what I'm going to share in this video, because if you do, like it did for me, it could radically transform your relationship to stress, to overthinking, to overwhelm, and it's really fucking simple. So let's get right into it. I want to go over with you 3 simple distinctions that have helped me to change my relationship with overthinking and overwhelm. And to start, the thing that I want you to start questioning in your mind is this idea that overthinking is something that is bad, that is wrong, and that is something that should be stopped. Word to the wise, stop trying to stop overthinking. And more appropriately, release your attachment to needing to make overthinking go away. Because what we resist persists. And actually, there is a very intelligent mechanism that is beneath overthinking, overwhelm, and anxiety. It's our body's way of communicating with us, which I'm going to break down more here shortly. But I want you to start by challenging this idea that you need to make it go away. I have some really cute, fun designs on a piece of paper over here that I'm going to show you to anchor in some of these distinctions and points that I want to make. They are going to help illustrate the point. But I want to start this by telling a story that I'm going to use to contextualize all of that information. And as I go into the story, I want you to go ahead right now and call to mind, even better would actually be to write it down, but to call to mind an experience that you've had, especially if it's recent and you can still feel it, where you were experiencing overthinking, overanalyzing, and overwhelm. Pull it to mind. Let's get it. So, recently, or I say 4 to 5 months ago, I reached out to one of my closest friends, shot him a text, and was just asking him, hey man, how you doing? Normal stuff. Because him and I, we have an ongoing relationship. We normally check in. How's everything going? Yeah, life's good. Health's good. Okay, cool. I sent him a message, and a week or 2 passes by, and I hear nothing. Like, that's weird. That's not like him. Normally, he's really quick on getting responses. So I sent him another message. Hey, man, everything okay? You okay? Like, just want to check in, make sure you're okay. Some more weeks pass by, nothing. What's going on? I try to give him a call. Nothing. What the fuck? I shoot him another message that followed something like, hey man, I just wanted to make sure that you're okay, or like we're okay. Because at this point in the story, in that time in between, my mind is racing. My mind is thinking and overthinking about what does this mean? Wait, what did I do? What did I say? Did I say something wrong? Did I fuck up? Was it? And I'm like running through the Rolodex in my mind of the previous experiences that we've had. Like, where did I mess up? Where did I do something that had him feel like he couldn't talk to me? More time passes, and it gets to the point where I'm getting really concerned about our relationship, because my mind is left with nothing but to guess, because there's no other way for me to get in contact with him. And so this part of the story, I want to go ahead and start to anchor in by pulling in this first bit of distinction. So you're going to see a few different things on this page here, but I want to walk you through this. So the first distinction, you're going to see some acronyms and stuff. Don't worry about those yet. We'll get there. And I hope this comes through well. By the way, don't mind my chicken scratch too much. I ain't got good handwriting, but I'll read you this stuff. So if you see this, you have a circle here, and you have a circle here. Below this circle, it says reality. Below this circle, it says story. Inside of each of these circles, there are a number of details. In the reality section, this is the reality of what has happened. So for instance, it says, I messaged him 3 times, got no response. I called him. I also did not get a response. And the third one says, I saw that he read my messages, which I think is such a fucking terrible feature that I should be subjected to, knowing that someone read my message and hasn't responded back. I really wish that would go away. But nonetheless, that's what happened in reality. On the other hand of the spectrum, I have the story, or the things that I'm telling myself in my mind at this point about what has happened. He's mad at me. What did I do wrong? Did I say something that pissed him off? The distinction between reality and story is reality is what actually happened, where story is what I'm telling myself in relationship to what happened. But here's the really devious, fucked up part, is these circles are separate, right? And when we aren't in a state of stress, when we're not overwhelmed, when we're not dealing with whatever else life is throwing at us, because not getting a response from his one thing, but there are other things in my life that are adding to my stress level. Well, what happens is, where's my pen? What happens is when we are in a heightened state of stress, especially if we're not getting any kind of response in this particular instance, grab my little mic here, is if we come back to this would be so much easier if I had a whiteboard, and I used to have a whiteboard, and for now we have paper. But if we come back to this, you'll see that now the circles have become conjoined. I did it real ugly like, but this is what happens, is there is a collapsing of what happened in reality and what story I am telling myself about what happened. Because in reality, he hasn't responded to me. He hasn't answered my calls. He hasn't answered my messages. He read my messages. That's what happened. In my mind, we're not okay. And so now I have this anxiety that's starting to build up because I have no way, or at least in this moment, I haven't made any way for me to be able to dump this stress and this anxiety. Now, as the story would go, however many months after I'd sent him all of these messages, the most recent one being like, hey man, if we're in a shitty place, like just tell me. He gets back and says something like, nah man, we're all good. I just been weighed down in life lately, and you know, sometimes when I get weighed down, I just stop responding. All this time that I spent freaking out, trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, what's wrong, and he's totally fine, we're totally fine. And of course, I would have loved it if he'd just sent that fucking message a little while ago, and it would have shored all of it up and would have saved me all of the grief and the stress and all of it, right? And it became a perfect lesson and remembrance for me to come back to this idea of, oh, I had an increase in my stress, and that led to a decrease, coming now to the second distinction here. So reality and story, they collapsed. Second distinction, right here where you see where it says A.R.C, ARC. ARC is an acronym that stands for affinity, reality, and communication. Now, the cool thing about this distinction, affinity being love, reality being connectedness to what is actually happening versus what my head is saying about what's happening, and communication being the actual act of communicating, right? Is when there is a decrease in any one, it leads to a decrease in the others. For example, I send Buddy a message. I send Buddy multiple messages. He does not respond. My mind, because of stress, begins to tell me devious things, the proverbial devil on my shoulders, like he doesn't like you anymore, you're not friends, this is the end, it's because of that thing that you said to him that he didn't like in the moment and you didn't address it and apologize for it. Reality goes down. Well, in my experience, affinity went down too. I'm like, oh, like he doesn't love me, or there's something wrong with our relationship, there's no love. And then what happens is, in most cases, is it leads to a decrease in communication. well, I'm not connected to reality and I don't feel love, so I'm going to withdraw myself. I'm going to pull back communication. I'm going to hide, and I'm going to wait for the other person to do something, or just wait until it all smoothens out. Problem is that it doesn't typically go like that. And in fact, the more that we stay in unreality, coming to this little 3-point part here, S.T.D, not to be confused with sexually transmitted disease. No, it's not that. Although when I wrote it down, I realized that, well, it could seem that way, but it's not. S.T.D stands for stress, tension, and dis-ease. When I disconnect from reality and I go into my story, my stress goes up. When I am stressed, am I going to have more tension in my body or less tension in my body? I'm going to have more tension. And so because I have more tension in my body, I am now beginning to send signals throughout my body from cell to cell. I'm tapping epigenetic triggers, if you will. I'm tapping epigenetic triggers that are signaling the response for dis-ease to show up in my body. We know well enough by now that a body in chronic stress is invariably increasing its risk for chronic disease and illness. And so when I am, and when we are constantly disconnected from reality, constantly in a state of stress, we are literally moving ourselves into states of unhealth. We are disconnecting from our remembrance of our peace. And so to come back to this original idea that I was mentioning at the top of the video about how we need to stop trying to stop overthinking, it's because when we try to stop overthinking, it usually leads to more overthinking. Because we're trying to resist, we're trying to push it off. But the reality is that we just need to turn towards and embrace the stress or the overthinking and begin to lean in and get curious and ask questions. Which leads me to, okay, so if stress disconnects me from reality and I shouldn't be avoiding overthinking, and when there's a decrease in affinity, reality, and communication, well, what happens if there's an increase in one of them? Novel thought. If I increase one, I increase all. So for instance, in that case with my buddy, when he finally told me, hey, everything's cool, reality went up, communication went up, and my experience and our felt sense of love and connection went up. Okay, that was really fucking simple. And so the reason why this is so important is because, as simple as it is, it's not necessarily always the easiest in reality. It's not always easy to stay connected to reality. In fact, it's very difficult at times, but it can also be very simple. And the simplest way to stay connected to reality is to regulate our baseline. It's to decrease chronic stress, chronic inflammation, chronic tension in the body. Because when the body's at ease, when I am at ease, when I am at peace, something that would normally piss me off, something that would normally freak me out, something that would normally cause me to overthink, I have a higher threshold before I actually get really agitated. But if I'm not sleeping well, if I'm not eating well, if I'm not taking care of my body, my threshold is much lower. My baseline is much lower. And so that leads me into some of the very practical and simple things that you can do to decrease your stress and to decrease your likelihood of getting lost in overthinking and overwhelm. And I'll end it with my personal favorite. So, simple things. 1, nature. Get your bare feet on the earth, breathe gently, and move your body. Because when we connect with Mother, we begin to discharge the distress in our body. There's a resonance. The earth has a resonance that when we connect our body to it, it naturally begins to heal and discharge ionization in the body that leads to and creates cellular stress. When I move my body, I'm literally expressing the stress. How does it move? How does it sound? Breath, sound, movement. This is how we move stress. This is how we move trauma. And that's where most of our overthinking, overanalyzing, and overwhelmness actually comes from. It comes from unprocessed feelings and emotions and stories that happen in the body because of some experience that we've had in the past. Some experience where we weren't met, we weren't held, we weren't loved, we weren't supported in the ways that we need to, particularly in adolescence, which is why you hear so much about trauma-informed work and parts work and things of that nature. So, coming back to nature, 1. 2, hot and cold contrast therapy. There's a number of ways to do this, but the simplest way that I found is just doing hot showers and cold showers. Not too hot or too cold that it causes damage to your body. Listen to your body. That is actually one of the key side notes here is it's really important that we learn to listen to our body, because our body is speaking a language. When we are overthinking or feeling overwhelmed, when I was saying stop trying to make it go away, is because this is actually a very intelligent design by your body to operate this way. No different than if you put your hand on a hot stove, it burns. You instinctually, before you can even process and think about it, your hand pulls away because it's designed to protect. And so we want to see these mechanisms of stress as very adaptive behaviors, instinctual behaviors that our body has come coded with, which is really fucking dope. So, hot and cold. Contrast helps us to go to one extreme, then the other, and then come back. I particularly found heat is really great for relaxation, where cold can be really good for kind of like shocking, creating a small eustress response, which is a healthy type of stress response that can actually help us to dump stress and then reset back towards the center, and usually also helps with energy if we're feeling kind of just lethargic and tired, especially if we've been constantly in a state of stress. And my personal favorite of all the practices, as we said, A.R.C, Affinity Reality Communication, is to actually go and increase communication. Now, in this particular situation, the best thing to do for me is to actually go to the person, my buddy, and say, hey, what's going on? That wasn't something that was readily available to me because obviously he wasn't communicating. One thing that I can do and eventually did do was actually talking to one of my trusted peoples. Hey, here's what's going on in my head. Can you help me to get myself right? Because right now, this little chart that I have here on this piece of paper is telling me that he's mad, he don't like me, and he don't love me. But then I talk to my friend or my family or my partner, and they're like, no, he's just, you don't know what's going on. Like, get connected to reality. So if you can, it's actually going and talking to the person it's involved with. If you can't go, it's going to someone that's trusted that you can get it outside of yourself, because you can't solve the problem at the same level of consciousness it was created, right? So not looping in my mind about what it is that they may or may not be thinking or doing, but actually getting it into reality, getting into the space and beginning to digest and process it. So, 1, breathe, move, get in connected with nature, which, by the way, I created a really cool, feel peaceful, decrease stress movement practice that you can do a follow along with. I'll link that in the description so you can find that if you are feeling like this is going to help. It's going to help to bring down your stress levels, get you back in your body feeling more peaceful. So that's a great place to start. And the next thing is get in communication. Find someone who can hold space for you so you can clear everything that is going on. So, bringing it all together. Remember, overthinking, lots of thoughts, they aren't the enemies. They're symptoms of something deeper that's going on. See these symptoms as messages, like text messages from the body saying, hey bro, come take a peek, something ain't right. If you do, over time, we begin to develop the ability to understand and to decode, like Morse code, beep, 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 decode these messages that our body are sending us, give ourselves what we need, get connected to reality, increase communication, increase affinity, and yeah, we'll still have overthinking sometimes. We'll still spend more time than we should, myself included, getting lost in things that we don't need to. And we will spend less time, we'll have less time, fewer frequencies, and the duration of which we are knocked out of our remembrance gets shorter and shorter and shorter. We get better at recentering ourselves little by little by little. So, as I said, take what I said to heart. I hope you're taking notes, and please take and apply this in your life. Because if you do, you're going to feel some fucking peace. And it's going to be dope. All right? Now, if you're looking to be able to do this type of work, the type of work where you can raise your baseline, dumping stress, dumping tension, dumping inflammation, dumping trauma from the body, knowing that when we have that in our body, it disrupts our harmonic frequency. If you're wanting to connect with your harmonic frequency to create a life that is authentic to who you are and lights you the fuck up, I would love for you to come connect with me and the community in the Remembrance Dojo. It's a free community that we release to share all kinds of resources designed to help you, to help us, to help the we collectively remember who we are and who we came here to be. Thank you so much for listening. I love you dearly, whether we've met or not, whether we do or not. Hope one day we do. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.